Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Well, it's this week's and last week's. Why? Because I was at Comic-Con. The insanity of the yearly trek, which we haven't had for a couple or 3 years, 2019, 2021, like 3 years. So it's the first time we were back in person. It was amazing. It was kind of like WonderCon. I say it was weird, but like not in a bad way. It was, I think the big takeaway was the fact that it was crowded, but it wasn't as crazy as it normally is, which was quite a surprise. So it'll be interesting going forward if they control, how many people can actually go. So it'd be really interesting. So I did take some photos. I haven't gotten, I'm literally still recovering. Plus, it's been super crazy at work this week. This is why we're kind of even a day later. Plus the fact that I have to review like 2 weeks worth of damn books, which I'm not complaining about. I just didn't get a chance to really read stuff even this week because I was just so exhausted from work. So hopefully everybody who went had a good time. The mask policy was great. I would say a good 95+% of people actually were wearing their mask like all the time in the convention center. It was a requirement, plus the proof of vaccination or a negative test within 72 hours, a PCR test. So that was really, I think, a big plus for the convention. So bravo to Comic-Con for having that policy. I think it really helped a lot. So far, nobody I know has tested positive. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that is. So we got a lot of books here. We're gonna get right to it. First up, we have Superman Space Age #1, written by Mark Russell with artwork by Michael Allred. So Ryan from the comic shop kind of described this as the heir apparent to New Frontier, which it kind of is, but it kind of isn't at the same time. It's a love letter to the Silver Age, for sure, but it's also I think a homage, also to the Bronze Age. So I think it's a little bit of mix because we see it's not just a story about Superman. It kind of starts out in the 60s where he hasn't really become Superman yet as far as this story goes. So there's the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which really kind of gives Clark the push to become Superman. And it's interesting because in a lot of ways he's still like a kid, like in some ways like Smallville, but he's not young. He's definitely older. So that's kind of interesting. We also see other DC characters like Lex Luthor, Bruce Wayne, and so on. And so it's kind of a retelling of those stories that we know, but in just kind of a different way. It's kind of taking a different look at it, and it's really fascinating what Russell has done here with the story. I mean, it's really, really wonderful, and I think it's just that he's not trying to reinvent the wheel, which is always smart. He's just telling the stories we know in a slightly different way, kind of mixing comic book timelines with reality timelines. And so it's really fascinating. I mean, once again, as you all know, I'm a huge Mark Russell fan. And this book is really amazing. It really gets to the core of Clark, and I always say the biggest thing you always do, write about Clark, don't write about Superman. Superman comes, that's the easy part. It's write about the characters themselves. And I think that's really the most fascinating thing. Plus, I'm really excited because at the end of this, and this is not a surprise, we get to see Wonder Woman is introduced into the storyline. So I think it'll be really interesting. But the big win for me is the Michael Allred art. It's just really wonderful, and it's kind of one of those things. This is not in a lot of ways, I'm kind of surprised that DC did this because, um, neither one are big marquee names per se. They're both incredibly talented comic creators, but they're not marquee like a lot of like some of these books are. And I also like the fact that it's just a regular DC book. It's not part of the Black Label. It's just regular DC. And it's not, Russell's not trying to be edgy. He's just telling a really good story. But then you have Allred's artwork, which really, captures the emotion of Russell's script. And it's just, every page is just so much amazement and just really the emotion that he gets across. It really is just an absolutely perfect book, and it's really wonderful. Now, I will say, even with the $9.90, it's a $10 book, but I'll say, man, you get a lot of bang for your buck here. Every page is just a new page to just behold and just take it all in. It's amazing. It's really the big pick of the last 2 weeks. This is a must buy. You really got to get this, and I can't wait to see where they take the rest of this. Next up, we have Gambit #1, written by Chris Claremont with artwork by Sid Cotain. So the main reason I kind of picked this up was because Chris Claremont doing an X-Men. And now, admittedly, Gambit's later, not part of the original new X-Men from Giant Size X-Men, and I think it's an interesting character, and he's got the original outfit, but it's him and a very young Storm, and on the surface, this should really work and everything, but I have to say, this book is just an absolute mess. I mean, really, from the story point of view, it kind of starts one thing and then it jumps to another, and then it's so jumbled and messy. It's just like it really doesn't make any sense, and it really just honestly, I didn't care after a while. It was a slog to read through, and it was not good, and I really. I don't know what Chris was thinking here, because this is just it's a real mess, and it just I don't know. It's just really honestly the only thing Cotain's artwork it's nice artwork. I give him props. He does a nice job, but the story is just awful, and it's just definitely skip this. This is just, it's not good. I don't know what else to say. Next up, we have The Brothers of All Men #1, written by Zach Thompson, with Ian Marin doing the artwork. So what this is there's a guy that has come back from the war, and he's looking for his brother. Well, apparently in looking for his brother, his brother has gotten caught up in this cult. And so that's really the main crux, that's a setup for the story. And it's really quite interesting. I mean, this first issue is very methodical and just really the pacing's really, it's one of those, it's a story that kind of washes over you, and it just is, it's quite fascinating. I don't know that this book is going to be for everybody, but I really, really liked it. It's just something really different, just from a storytelling point of view. It's really intriguing. It's one of those, like I said, it washes over you slowly, but it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a horror story, but there's really like that kind of element underneath, like kind of like a Wicker Man type thing, like there's something going on, and it's really fascinating. I really like Marin's artwork. Is actually really nice, because once again, there's not a lot of flash here. It's a lot of dialogue and just emotions and stuff like that, and he really does a nice job. It's really, really quite interesting, and I really, if you're definitely looking for something different, definitely check it out. Next up, we have Detective 162, written by Ram V, with artwork by Raphael Albuquerque. So, now normally I do the #1. So what it is, this is kind of like a new #1 because it's a new creative team jumping on the book. So even though it's 1062, and thank you DC for continuing the true legacy numbers, we'll get to that later. First of all, I really enjoyed Ram V. Like Swamp Thing, it's just absolutely amazing. the many deaths of Layla Starr. He's really a great up and coming writer. I mean, he's been writing for a while, but I'm really glad that he's taken over detective, because we have Chip Zdarsky on the main Batman book, and now Ram is doing detective. The thing I really liked about it is it's really it's not, first of all, he's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's just telling a good story. And I think what I really love about this is it's like Batman noir. It's definitely picking up that sort of vibe, and it's kind of a once again, it's kind of a setup to what the story is going to be. There's a mystery about this new quote unquote villain in town. Talia shows up. There's kind of a lot going on. Plus, there's also Bruce is kind of having nightmares about not so much the death of his parents, but kind of like how the bat made him become Batman, but now he's kind of haunted by it. So that's kind of the setup we have here. And it's really an interesting start to kick off the story. I really liked it a lot. Beyond the story is just steeped in noir, which is obviously once again great. You have Albuquerque's artwork, which is just, it's gorgeous. He's a really stunning artist, and he really is such a perfect fit for this story. So I'm very happy that this is a really solid team on this book. And I know there's a lot of Batman books out, and it's kind of like, oh, another Batman book. But this one's really good, and I'm really with once again Ram V's track record. I'm very excited to see where he takes it. This first issue was a nice setup. And it really gets things going, and then you have Albuquerque's wonderful artwork. Next up, we have Dark Spaces Wildfire #1, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So the basic premise of this is in California, unfortunately, we have a lot of forest fires here. So what it is there's this group of 4 women who are they're in prison, but they get time taken off if they volunteer to go and fight fires. And they also get paid like $2 a day, but they're risking their life. So one of them knows that there's this house in where the fire is that is filled with treasures and stuff like that. So basically, it becomes a heist story, which is it's pretty basic. And in a lot of ways the premise is not particularly original, but what I love what Snyder has done here is he really delves into takes the time to introduce each character while setting up the story. And it really is, once again, it's one of those like subtle things that you would think most writers would do, but actually a lot of them don't. And I think that's the thing. You get to know the characters really well. Then you're like, okay, I'm with them, and I like this concept of the heist. And it's a really good story. I really liked it. It definitely hits all the right beats for a first issue, and it gives you a really good reason to come back. And I think the thing is that there's once again there's this heist, but there's also this wildfire that's going on. So it's really interesting, and Sherman's artwork is really wonderful. Here he really captures the emotions, but he also with the wildfires, he really captures the scope of that. Even though that's kind of in the background, it's really an important part of the story, and he does them both really well. It's a really, I really enjoyed this, and it'll be interesting to see where Snyder and Sherman take this book. Next up, we have Ant-Man #1, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Tom Riley. So what this is, it's a pretty basic Ant-Man story, but what makes this so wonderful, it's definitely a throwback to that early Marvel age of Kirby, Ditko, Colin, and then that's what it kind of is. It's kind of a retro story that takes place. It's the original Ant-Man, Henry Pym and Wasp, And it's just, and this first issue is what it is there's like four villains that basically capture him, and they, you know, they're seeking revenge, but they're not big villains. They're kind of like people he's upset, like, you know, he like it's kind of like they all have a axe to grind with him, and they're not like super villains, but they're people that he's kind of pissed off, and that's what makes it so fun. And what I also like about it is it's a really basic, simple story, kind of like the old you know, classic, you know, Marvel books. And then Riley's artwork is really perfect. It's very simple. It's very like very retro, and it really fits what Ewing is doing with the story. And it's just, it's one of those, it's one of those comics that you're not going to go, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever read. But you're going to like, this is so fun. And that's why it works, because they're not trying to be more than it is. It's just, this is a retro fun story. This is what we're giving you, and they hit that just perfectly out of the gate. Just it's just fun, and that's all it's trying to be. And you don't get those very often. And when it's done, and it like this, when it's done right, it's perfect. So definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun. Next up, we have Blink #1, written by Christopher Sabella, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So yes, 2 Hayden Sherman books, and now most likely one of these has been done for a while, or maybe both of them have been done for a while. So what the basic premise is there's this young man who is looking for something. There's something in his past that is like a blind spot, like something he's blocked out. And so he's always on the internet looking, trying to find a piece of the puzzle of what's missing from his life when he was younger. There's something he's blocked out, and he runs across it. So he goes to like Detroit, and he meets up with a friend, and they go to this building where, you know, this seems familiar and everything, that this thing that has jogged his memory. And he goes there, and the buildings they're like the brownstones, where they're all connected. There's 3 of them, and they go into the bottom, and they come across this computer. Like there's people that have been there, kind of like a not like a cult, but kind of like, you know, people. And so they find that there's been cameras and stuff. So they look at the video, and they kind of see clips of things, of people that were there. And then all of a sudden something happens, like something attacks this group. And at the end, the cliffhanger is that there looks like, I don't want to say they're monsters, but they're something. And the 2 guys are like there, and they're like, there's somebody else here. So it's really interesting. I think the one thing that Sabella does really well is he really sets up the characters quite nicely, so you get to know them. So when they go to this house, or these houses, it's really just like, okay, you know, we're going with him now. There's all this weird crap happening. So and once again, Sherman he's a really good artist, and he brings the goods here. So definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have DC Mechs #1, written by Kenny Porter, with artwork by Baldemar Rivas. So now lately we've seen there's been a lot of Mech books, and now Marvel's jumped on the bandwagon. Now DC is. And so basically what this is you have like the Flash, who is the Flash, but he has a giant mech suit. And same with Batman. So you have Batman, who does Batman, these giant, because there is this, so you go back to the Justice Society. It's a flashback to the 40s, where this giant mech alien comes through and pretty much nukes most of the team, and they barely take him out, and they learn that there's going to be this alien invasion. So instead of like superheroes, which there are, they create mech suits for these superheroes. And so then also Superman shows up in the story, but he doesn't people don't know him, and then he shows up towards the end of this issue. This is one of those, like, it wasn't like bad, but it wasn't great, but it's definitely for the audience that it is intended for. So it's one of those things, if you like the concept of excuse me, if you like the idea of superheroes and mechs and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's okay. It's not, like I said, it's not great, it's not terrible. It was kind of okay. It's not necessarily my huge cup of tea, but it is kind of the one thing I'll definitely give Porter is that it's a nice all ages book. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, but it's definitely something that definitely hits that all ages pocket, which I always appreciate all ages books. And Riva's artwork's nice. It's okay, but like I said, it's going to depend on if you think that's a really cool premise, then you're going to like it. But if you think it's not something that's going to blow you away, it's probably not. So next up we have Rogues Gallery #1, with a story by Hannah Rose May and Declan Shelvey. With the script by Hannah Rose May and artwork by Justin Mason. It's really interesting because it starts off of like kind of this superhero who it's like set in the future, and she's like kind of a badass, and then you're watching this and you're reading the first, like, three pages, and you're like, okay, this is basic superhero stuff, whoopee, it's all nice and everything. Then it cuts to these kids in a comic shop reading, and so what it is, they're watching a television show. So the premise is that this show's been on for like a long time, and that the creator of the comic book is the showrunner, and they're pissed because they're not even following the comic. They've changed everything. She sucks. She needs to be fired from the show. And they hatch this plan that they're going to break into her house and basically, like, they're going to steal the original comic book and basically force her to write like the show like the book. And it really is like I said, it starts off the first three pages, you're like, this is pretty stupid. But then it's like there's that, and it's like it's kind of not the most brilliant thing I've ever read, but it really surprised me. It really was something that like, okay, this is there, and there's a great twist at the end, which I will not give away. But I have to give May that it did surprise me. Once again, it was something I didn't expect, which was nice. And Mason's artwork is good. I wouldn't say it blew me away, but it's good. It's nice, decent, solid work. But it's quite interesting. I'd say if you're looking for something kind of off the beaten track, it was definitely a surprise. Like I said, didn't blow me away, but I still think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have DC versus Vampires All Out War #1, written by Alex Packendell and Matthew Rosenberg, with artwork by Pascal Colonna. So I haven't been reading DC versus Vampires, but let's be honest, it's just, characters, and I've read some of the first ones. And it's one of those things. It's just vampires in DC universe. So what this is a group of heroes and villains that have survived the vampire invasion, and they're trying to find the Lazarus pit because they're trying to bring back Batman. They have Batman's body. He's dead, apparently. I'm sure if you've been reading the vampires, a lot of this is going to make more sense. But so then they get infiltrated, and it's pretty basic stuff here. I would say if it would probably be better if you were reading the main vampire story. But I think you can pick this up by itself, because I think this is a side story, but once again, I'm not reading the main book, so I could be wrong. It was fine for what it is. I think it's one of those it was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was fine for what it was. But I think it's going to be more suited for people that are reading the regular book instead of kind of just picking this up by itself. Once again, the one thing I did definitely appreciate about the artwork is it's really kind of done in black and white with red tones, and it's actually quite nice. The artwork is good, but I like the fact that it's definitely using more of a black and white with tones, which was a nice touch. But yeah, it was decent. Next up, we have Little Red Ronin #1, written by Garrett Gunn, with artwork by Kit Wallace. So what this is it's a retelling of the Little Red Riding Hood, but what it is, the Big Bad Wolf is like this monster, and nobody believes this little girl. Like she's seen it, she saw it once, but nobody's seen it for, like, there's like the stories about the Big Bad Wolf. And so she basically sets out to find this wolf monster, and it's pretty basic, and she's a little Ronin, and it's like I said, it's a pretty basic story. But I will say, the story was okay, but the art is freaking adorable. I mean, Wallace's artwork is really what makes this book. It's kind of a cute animal story, but it's really nice. The artwork's really, really nice. And it has enough of, I think, of a premise to where it's like, okay, I kind of like to see more of this. So definitely it's definitely a smaller book. It's from Source Point Print, which usually is not known for their quality. So this is a big surprise for them, because it's actually, quite good. So definitely look for that, because I really enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, we have Do a Power Bomb #2, written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. So at the end of the first issue, she basically meets up, and I don't want to say it's like Satan, but it's like a Satan type character who lives in this underworld. He's basically been trapped there, but he can't get out. But one of the things he's able to do is he's able to tap into television, and he's discovered wrestling, and he loves wrestling. So he has this underworld wrestling match. So what he offers the daughter is that I want you to wrestle, and it's a no holds bar wrestle. You could die, you probably will die, but if you survive it, I can bring your mother back. And so she's like, she listens to the offer, but he says there is a hitch. I want you has to be a partner, and the partner is the guy that killed your mother. And so that, like, kind of, she's like, well, like, that's kind of fucked up, but, like, I want my mom back. So she goes back to the real world, and she talks to the other wrestler, and he doesn't want to do it, but she's like, well, you owe me because you killed my mom. So, and then there's a big twist at the end, which I will not give away, but that, like, changes the whole dynamic of this book. And once again, I love Daniel Warren Johnson. He's absolutely amazing. This book is amazing. And I'm not a big wrestling fan, so if you can impress me with a book about wrestling that I don't really care for, you sold me. And like I said, I love the first issue. The second issue beyond seals the deal. It was absolutely great, and that twist at the end, just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. You really need to be buying this book. It's that good. And not only is the story good, I love his artwork. His artwork's absolutely stunningly amazing. Just buy this book. This is really good stuff. Next up, we have The Lonesome Hunters #2, written and drawn by Tyler Crook. So we have this guy who in the past had this sword and was able to kill, like, spirits and stuff like that. So now these crows, who are, like, they're possessed, they attack the next door neighbor's father. He ultimately kills the raven, but now they know he has the sword because these these demons or whatever have been looking for him and the sword. So now he's kind of like, hey, guess what? Or, they're going to know. So that is kind of the basic premise here. And he goes back to his ex-wife, and she's not happy to see him, but she's like, this is kind of like, they know you. This is bad. And so, like I said, the crows now know. So they're going after both him and the daughter. So it's going to be really interesting to see where the story goes from here, because it really is. It's really interesting. I love what Crook is doing here. His artwork's absolutely amazing, but the story just really, I love how he builds on the first issue really quite well, and really just starts expanding out that story that he's created. And it's really wonderful. It's a great book. You definitely need to be picking up. Top pick this week, another big winner. Next up, we have the new Fantastic Four, number 1, written by Peter David with artwork by Alan Robinson. So we have the new Fantastic Four. They're in Vegas. A demon has started possessing people, and they're trying to deal with it. That's the basic story here. Once again, this is a takeoff from the Walt Simonson Art Adams when he did when Walt was doing the Fantastic Four run. It was basically a fill-in issue. So you've got Human Torch, you've got the Hulk, Gray Hulk, Mr. Fix-It, you've got Ghost Rider, Johnny Storm. Yeah, I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. But I think the interesting thing is you have this preacher who has like the power to, like, he's on a bus and he's like, I wish I was with the Fantastic Four, and then bam, he just like shows up, and it's like, okay, so he has this like power. But so basically the second issue just kind of builds upon the first issue, and the thing, like I said, the story's not super deep here, and it's not trying to be, But what David does is he captures just the fun of that original story that Walt Simonson and Art Adams did, and he just continues it here. And Robinson does a nice job. He's not necessarily trying to imitate. There is definitely shades of Art Adams, but it's definitely his style. It just happens to fit in. And like I said, this book's not going to blow you away or anything, but it's charming and fun, and that's what I like about it. And Peter David's a perfect writer for this. Next up, we have Sins of the Black Flamingo, number 2, written by Andrew Wheeler with artwork by Travis Moore. So basically the black, he's a thief. And in the first issue, he basically steals stuff, but he will steal stuff for people that have been wronged or something that has been stolen from them that shouldn't have been stolen. So in the first issue, he basically, this couple, they were given like a golem totem, and so he returns it. And what's interesting, the first issue was pretty basic, but the big twist at the end was he comes across this, this angel. So now he's trying to figure out, well, he's saving the angel, but he's trying to figure out what to do with him, and people are now after him. And are they after him? Are they after the angel? We don't know. But the golem comes and helps him because he's trying to figure out, what's going on. I think the interesting thing is that first of all, I really love the first issue. I like the second issue, but it really it goes in a different direction. It wasn't quite just the thief story that I thought it was going to be. And trust me, that's a good thing. It's going much deeper than I thought it would be, and I think that's what's surprising. The second issue, like I said, it's very similar to the first issue, but it's very different at the same time. But once again, that's a good thing because it's not what you expect. And I really have to give Wheeler props for that, because it's going in a direction that I never thought that this book would go, and that's actually a really big plus. And then you have Travis Moore's artwork is just gorgeous. He is an absolutely stunning artist, and it's really perfect. And like I said, I like the fact that it's not going where I think, and there's these twists and turns in the second issue, and I can't really say anything because I don't want to give anything away, but I really liked it. But just be prepared. It's not what you think it's going to be. And once again, that's its best asset. Next up, we have Public Domain #2, written and drawn by Chip Zdarsky. So we find out that this creator, say, Golden Silver Age creator, has discovered that the company, the contract, actually he owns the characters. So that's what we learned in the first issue. He went to the movie premiere. So his sons are like, hey, we need to like get the character back, or you need to get like all the money, a big cut of the money, because they made 6 movies, they made merchandise, they make toilet seat covers, they make everything, and you are entitled to that, a lot of that money. So that's what this second issue kind of deals with and also, I think it's more than just that, and that's what I really like that Zdarsky's doing here in the story. It's really about a relationship with a father and his sons, and that is becoming really part of the core of the story. I think that's the premise of him in the contract and all that stuff is the basic. Here's the surface of the story, but there's a lot underneath that we're starting to learn in this second issue about family and learning, because once again, he's worked all the time. He never really spent time with his sons or his wife, and we're starting to, and his wife actually gets upset at him because it's like, you need to talk to your sons. You need to, they're trying to help you, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, I got screwed, whatever. So it's really interesting. I have to really give Zdarsky props because it's there. Like I said, the first issue is really that surface story, but there's a lot more going on, and I love the fact that it's a very character driven story. I really like that, and his artwork's actually really nice. It's really interesting. I really like this book a lot. It's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have World's Finest number 5, written by Mark Waid, with artwork by Dan Morris. So this issue finishes off the first story arc. And so basically they're trying to trap the demon. Supergirl has come back to the present, but as we found out last issue, bit of a spoiler, so if you haven't been reading, shame on you, that Robin is lost in time. So so Superman, Batman, Supergirl, and the Doom Patrol basically are fighting the villain. This is the big final battle. But then afterwards, it's like, I've lost Robin, so now Batman is going to have to go after Robin. So, but once again, this Wade finishes off the first story arc. It's been a fun ride. It's just one of those. It's not very deep. It's just fun superhero stuff, and Wade's really good at that. It's exactly what you expect, but that's not a bad thing. He delivers a solid, good, fun superhero story, and that's what this book has really been. That's why I love it. It's not trying to be more than it is, and that's actually a smart move. And then you have Dan Morris' artwork, which is just absolutely wonderful. I mean, he's really just a really great artist, and this has been a really blast. I can't wait to see where they take the next story arc. Now, I'm not sure if Morris is staying in the book. I hope he is. But Wade, this is just really a fun book, and it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have The Amazing Spider-Man #6, or 900 is their legacy numbering, but we'll go back to DC. DC's numbers are correct. Marvel's, I would say, are a little bit iffy, especially when you go to like Venom, that is it like 600 or something, just because they count every issue of a Venom miniseries or whatever. So hopefully, I would like to say that hopefully this is actually issue 900. It would be nice, because it's one of their true legacy books. But anyways, it's written by Zeb Wells with pencils by Ed McGuinness and a bunch of inkers. There's Mark Morales, Ed McGuinness, Wade Von Graubadger, and Cliff Rathburn are inking. So I really want to say that I really enjoyed the first story arc that him and John Romita did, and this is basically just a standalone extended story. The problem I had with it is it's an okay story. It's not anything. It's so basically the Sinister Six have been captured by this giant brain, who's trying to find out who is Spider-Man. And so that's why it says the Sinister Seven, because the brain, trust me, I'm not giving much away. But the problem, it wasn't so much the story I had a problem with. It was really McGinnis's artwork. It's not terrible, but it wasn't that good. And it's a very kind of bland looking book. And the thing is that the story's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just kind of an extended story that, like, I think you could have told this story in maybe half the page count, but it's a special issue. And the problem is, it's like a $10 book. And, once again, you can kind of compare it to the Superman Space Age. That's worth $10. This Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man number 6, not worth $10. It's not terrible. It's fine for what it is, but it's just one of those things. It's an okay story. The art was just, I like McGinnis. I think he's a really good artist. I just think that it was okay. It wasn't anything to jump up and down about. And for $10, you deserve a lot more. So I think that's what really ultimately kills it. Is it's just not worth $10. Not terrible, not great. Next up, we have Silver Coin number 12. This issue is written by Stephanie Phillips, with artwork, as always, by the wonderful Michael Walsh. So basically, this is a World War II story where they're out. I don't know. They're out in the cold snow, and they're fighting the Germans. And one of the Germans that gets killed has the coin. So a young private basically gets a coin. He's never killed anybody. He's not, he throws up when he sees blood. And so what it is he goes out. They're hunkering down for the night because the Germans are still around. And so he's on first watch, and he imagines that one of the soldiers come back to life, like a zombie, and it's actually it's kind of this dream. And then once again, I don't want to give away the story, but he basically sees zombies, and there's a twist. It's one of those, like every issue, it's kind of like a Twilight Zone type story. I wouldn't say that this has definitely been my favorite story, but it's it's a decent story. It's something you've read like a million times. It's done well. Really, the thing that makes it is Walsh's artwork. He takes this really basic story that, like I said, you've read a million times, but gives it a nice visual twist that kind of helps. It has a really nice ending, but it's basically a simple Twilight Zone story. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's my favorite issue, but it's certainly not terrible. But as always, this book is still a win because they're one and done. Next issue will have a new writer, and Michael Walsh will be the creator. So I still enjoy this. I still think this book is well worth picking up. Like I said, it's not my favorite story, but still good. Next up, we have Sandman Universe Nightmare Country number 4, written by James Tynion IV, with artwork by Lisandro Esterin. And the guest artist this month is Danny. Now, the guest artist normally has been doing, like when they go to the dream world. But this one is, but Danny actually draws, there's kind of a flashback to the history of this magazine. So that's what it is in this issue. It's not part of the dreaming. So what it is this rich guy has the girl, she's been seeing the fat guy with tongue, mouths for eyes, but not the Sandman character. I'm sorry, it's late. Give me a break. So once again, she's being chased by the two bad guys, and so a lot of what has led up to like this issue, and not that we're starting to see where all these story threads that Tynion has been doing has come together, and it kind of crashes they all slam into each other this issue, which is really good because we're now at the 4th issue, so we're kind of starting. This is a good point to like, okay, we've gone through the setup, we've seen all this weird crap, and now they're all kind of colliding together. So once again, this is a good solid issue. It continues to really impress me. I think it's a really, really big win for the Sandman universe books. I think it's one of the best ones so far. Esterin's artwork is wonderful. Danny is just icing on the cake on this. Definitely still worth checking out. I'm really enjoying it, especially for everybody. We're all getting excited about the Sandman series that's coming in August on Netflix. Very excited about that. This is definitely a good new Sandman universe story. Next up, we have Nightwing number 4, or 94, not number 4, 94, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Geraldo Borges. Now, once again, it's sad. We're always sad when Bruno is not doing the book. But this issue is actually quite good. We actually kind of start seeing how, like, the mayor and all the corruption within Bloodhaven is starting to come to a head. So what it is Barbara sets up one of his basically minions and sets him up to get the dirt on the boss. So that's kind of what this issue is. It's really kind of a setup to, like, they're trying to take down the big, the mafia kind of thing that's really running Bloodhaven. And so that's what's going on in this issue. And we'll also kind of get to see how, like, the mayor who's been helping Dick behind the scenes, she basically gets found out this issue, and it doesn't look like it's going well. So that's kind of what goes on this issue. It's really, once again, Tom Taylor continues to knock it out of the park. This is, once again, this is not, you really need to have been reading the book for a while. You can't just jump in here, but I love this book to death. The thing is, Borges does a good job on it. I mean, and obviously it's always sad when Bruno's not doing the book, but it's still pretty decent artwork. And the story is, we're kind of in the middle of this story. So it's still a win. I love this book to death. Hopefully Bruno will be back next issue. And finally, we have Batman 1 Dark Knight, number 3, written and drawn by Jacques. This finishes off the story. So basically the premise is it's like the Warriors, where the Warriors are trying to get back to their house, as in the classic movie, and Batman's trying to get this I want to say villain, but this gentleman who's like an EMP he's trying to get him to the other side of Gotham, where he will be in a containment unit. So that has been going on for the first 2 issues. So this issue is the final, he gets really close, but there's the twist. I don't want to really give anything away because I think what is most interesting about this book is the premise has been pretty basic here. Which I understand, this is the first thing that Jacques has actually written. But what he does is what really makes it, and this is why sometimes when you read it as one, it works a little better, especially with these the Black Label books that tend to come out bi-monthly. It really has a great twist to the ending that really changes, when you go back and you think about the story, you're like, wow, there's all these little things that we didn't know, and now that we know this, it kind of changes what we thought about the below the surface parts of the story that were going on that we didn't quite know about until we learned this one thing. And that's what it's really a nice surprise. And this has been, like I said, I really love Jacques' artwork. He's a brilliant artist. And, while the story overall won't necessarily blow you away, it's a good, solid story. I really have to give props to him that it's, once again, the payoff is just absolutely perfect. And it really, like I said, it kind of floods back. You're like, oh, there's all these other things that we saw along the way we just didn't quite know. So it's definitely worth checking out. I know that there's they've already solicited the I think it's a hardcover coming out. And it's really worth checking out. I really did enjoy this. It was, especially once again for Jock's art, but pretty solid story overall. That's going to do it, kids. I know it's been a long one. Trust me, I know it's been long because I had to read all these and now I'm having to do this. But I do it for you. I do it because I love comics. That's the one thing. That was one big takeaway from Comic-Con is really the love of comics. Comics was very prevalent there. That's going to do it this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics Long Beach. Ryan Skinner runs a great store there. Annie, Eduardo, Derek, Wendy. It's a great store. They offer great pull service. They offer discounts on trades and hardcovers and manga. It's a really great store. It's in Long Beach. You know, if you live in the South Bay area, there's a sister store owned by Chris and her team. Same name, different. They're Pulp Fiction, Culver City. If you live in that area, definitely check them out. Two great stores in the LA area. But as always, please support your local comic shop. It's very important. And as always, we end our show with Be Kind. Things are, look, trust me, things are rough out there. I get it just as much as you do. But the one thing, I love comics and it's a great escapism. But being kind in the real world is very important. So please take care of yourselves, stay safe. And once again, just be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Being kind can really make your day and someone else's. That's going to do it this week. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing out. Hopefully we'll be back to a fairly normal schedule next week, and hopefully I did record some panels at Comic-Con, so hopefully soon I will get those up. Give me time. It takes time to put those together a little bit. So please take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and take care of yourselves. All right, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing out. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.